Look, look, the poor dad gets a blind date. Giggling laughter echoed through the coffee shop. Ethan walked in, worn shirt collar, paint still on his hands, tired but kind eyes. In the corner sat a woman in a wheelchair. Elegant dress, cold, guarded expression. Sorry, I'm the person they're about to laugh at. Friends behind them held up phones recording. Ethan set down a small gift box. If they're going to film this, at least let them see me treat you to something sweet. She froze, her eyes shifted. They didn't know that this cruel joke would open a story no one in that cafe could ever forget. Ethan Miles was 35 years old, a single father, a house painter who also delivered packages on evening shifts. After his wife passed away, he raised Sophie alone. Age 8, a bright girl who wrote notes saying, "Smile, Daddy," and stuck them on mirrors. A coworker played a cruel joke, signed him up for a free blind date without telling him. Sophie overheard, innocent and hopeful. "Try it, Dad. Maybe someone will actually like you." That evening, he only had $15 left, but he still bought a small box of cupcakes to give to this stranger. The cafe was upscale, soft laughter mixed with piano music. Ethan felt out of place among the suits and evening gowns. In the corner sat Clara, 32 years old, in a wheelchair, beautiful face, sad eyes. When he sat down, she said, "I'm also here to be laughed at." Apparently, they like pairing two pathetic people together. Ethan smiled gently. "If they're recording, at least let them see you being treated like you deserve." She went silent for several seconds, then smiled, a real smile, for the first time in months. Around them, the group of so-called friends whispered and snickered. Phones pointed, elbows nudging. "This is going to be hilarious," one muttered. But Ethan ignored them. He opened the cupcake box and offered it to Clara. "I know this isn't much, but my daughter helped me pick them out. She said everyone deserves something sweet." Clara stared at the cupcakes, simple, store-bought, nothing fancy, but no one had given her anything in months without pity in their eyes. "Your daughter sounds wonderful," she said quietly. "She's the best thing that ever happened to me." He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. Sophie grinning, missing a front tooth, holding a paintbrush. "She helps you work?" "Sometimes. Mostly she just makes me laugh when things get hard." He paused. "What about you? Do you have family?" Clara's expression hardened. "I did. Before the accident. Before I became this." "This?" "Broken, incomplete, a burden." Ethan shook his head. "You're not broken. You're just different. And different isn't less." She looked at him sharply, searching for the pity she always saw. The careful tone people used. The way they talked, too loud or too slow. Like her legs didn't work, so her brain must not either. But his eyes were just steady, honest, kind. "Why did you come tonight?" she asked. "My daughter asked me to try, and I can't say no to her." He smiled. "Why did you?" "Because I'm tired of hiding, and I thought maybe—" She trailed off. "I don't know what I thought." They talked for an hour, about nothing important, favorite foods, bad movies, the weather, normal conversation, like she was just a person, not a disability, not a tragedy, just Clara. When the cafe started closing, they stood. Well, he stood, she wheeled, to leave. The group of friends was still there, disappointed their prank hadn't produced more drama. Ethan turned to them, his voice calm but firm. "I hope whatever you got out of tonight was worth it, because she just gave me the best evening I've had in 2 years." Clara's eyes filled with tears. Outside, under the streetlights, she said softly, "You're the first person who looked at me without pity." "Then everyone else is blind." She laughed, a real surprise laugh. "Can we do this again? Without the cameras?" "I'd like that." As he walked away, Clara sat in her wheelchair, watching him disappear into the night. For the first time since the accident, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could be seen as whole again. At home, Sophie was waiting up, drawing at the kitchen table. "How was it, Dad?" "It was good, baby, really good." "Did she like the cupcakes?" "She loved them." Sophie beamed. "I knew it. People who smile in their eyes always like cupcakes." Ethan hugged his daughter, grateful for her wisdom. On the mirror, her note still said, "Smile, Daddy." For the first time in a long time, he did. Sophie's note, "Smile, Daddy," stuck on the mirror. Ethan laughs, feeling lighter. Clara sent a text message the next morning. "I owe you a coffee, one without cameras." From that day on, they met every week. No pity, no performance, just two lonely people sharing space. Ethan told her about his wife's death, the nights juggling work and childcare, the fear that he wasn't enough for Sophie. Clara listened, her eyes softening with understanding. Clara told him she'd been a creative director, but after the accident left her paralyzed from the waist down, her fiancé left. He couldn't handle having a wife who couldn't walk beside him, she said, voice breaking. Ethan simply replied, "Then he never deserved to walk beside you in the first place." Clara laughed, surprised, moved. The laugh reached her eyes. They fell into a rhythm. Coffee on Tuesdays, phone calls on Thursdays, text messages throughout the week that made both of them smile at their phones like teenagers. Ethan learned that Clara had a sharp sense of humor, that she loved terrible puns, that she cried during commercials but never during sad movies. Clara learned that Ethan sang off-key while painting, that he made pancakes in funny shapes for Sophie, that he'd been writing letters to his late wife in a journal he kept hidden. "Do you still write to her?" Clara asked one day. "Sometimes, less now than before." He looked at her. "I think she'd be okay with that. What would you tell her? If you could?" He was quiet for a long moment. "That I'm trying, that Sophie is amazing, that I met someone who makes me want to try harder." Clara's breath caught. One Saturday, Ethan brought Sophie to meet her. The little girl ran up, no hesitation, no fear, just pure 8-year-old energy. "You're Miss Clara. Dad talks about you all the time." "Does he?" Clara smiled. "Uh-huh. He says you're really smart and funny and pretty." Sophie pulled out a handmade card. "I made this for you." Clara opened it. Inside, in wobbly crayon letters, "For the lady who makes Dad smile." Clara's eyes filled with tears. She pulled Sophie into a hug. "Thank you, sweetheart. It's been a long time since anyone was this honest with me." They spent the afternoon together. Sophie showed Clara her drawings. Clara taught Sophie about different art styles. Ethan watched them, something warm and terrifying growing in his chest. This felt like family, but he was scared. Scared of replacing the memory of his wife. Scared of Clara's trauma. Scared of messing it up. That evening, after Sophie fell asleep in the car, Clara and Ethan sat in the parking lot. "She's wonderful," Clara said. "She likes you. A lot. I like her too." Clara looked at him. "And I like you, which terrifies me." "Why?" "Because everyone who's ever claimed to like me has left. My fiancé, my business partners, my friends." Her voice cracked. "What happens when you see how hard this is? When you realize I can't just get up and go places? When you get tired of waiting?" Ethan reached over, took her hand. "I spent 2 years watching my wife die slowly, waiting with her, taking care of her. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat because that's what love is." He squeezed her fingers. "Being with you isn't waiting, it's choosing, every day." Clara broke down crying, real, ugly crying, the kind she hadn't allowed herself since the accident. Ethan just held her hand and let her cry. The following week, Sophie drew a picture at school. Her teacher asked about it. "That's my family," Sophie explained, pointing. "That's Dad, that's me, and that's Miss Clara." "Is Miss Clara your mom?" Sophie thought about it seriously. "Not yet, but I think she wants to be." When Ethan picked her up, the teacher showed him the drawing. His throat tightened. At home, Sophie taped it to the refrigerator with a note. "She's part of our team now." That night, Ethan called Clara. "Sophie drew us as a family today." Silence on the other end. Then, "What did you say?" "I didn't know what to say. I wanted to ask you first. Is that okay? Is it okay that my daughter is already thinking of you that way?" "Ethan," her voice was thick with emotion, "I've been thinking of her, of both of you, that way for weeks now." "Yeah? Yeah." They sat on the phone in comfortable silence, both smiling in their separate spaces. "Can I tell you something?" Clara said quietly. "Anything." Before I met you, I thought my life was over, that the accident had taken everything that mattered. But you and Sophie, you make me feel like maybe I can still have a life worth living. Clara, you always had a life worth living. You just needed someone to remind you. She laughed softly. Will you keep reminding me? Every single day. The next time they met, Clara had something for them. A small wooden frame with Sophie's drawing inside. I want you to have this back, she said, but I also want to earn the right to be in it. For real. Ethan smiled. You already have. Sophie, who'd been coloring nearby, looked up. Does this mean Miss Clara is staying? Clara wheeled over, leaned to Sophie's level as much as she could. If you'll have me, sweetheart, I'd like to stay. Sophie launched herself into Clara's arms. Finally, I've been waiting forever. Over Sophie's shoulder, Clara met Ethan's eyes. He mouthed, me too. Sophie writes she's part of our team now and tapes it to the fridge. 1 month later, Ethan got a delivery job at Win & Conan, an upscale furniture design company. When he stepped into the conference room to drop off supplies, he froze. Clara, the woman he'd been seeing, sitting at the head of a massive table, surrounded by lawyers and investors. She was the CEO. Their eyes met. She looked momentarily happy, then composed herself. You're right on time. Ethan couldn't speak. He'd known she'd worked in design, but she'd never mentioned being the owner of a multi-million-dollar company. Before he could process, the door opened. A man in an expensive suit walked in with a lawyer and PR representative. Lucas Brennan, Clara's ex-fiancé. Clara, so good to see you. His smile was predatory. I see you've been busy. The video from your little blind date has been quite popular online. Ethan's stomach dropped. The cafe, the prank, someone had posted it. Lucas slid a folder across the table. Here's my proposal. You agree to partner on my development project? I'll hold a press conference explaining the video was just a misunderstanding. Refuse, and I'll tell everyone you've been having an affair with your delivery guy. Infidelity, scandal, your company's reputation destroyed. Clara gripped her wheelchair armrest, voice shaking. You leaked that video? To humiliate me? Lucas shrugged. You've gotten smarter. One of the investors coughed uncomfortably. Ms. Wynn, perhaps we should consider— No! Her voice was steel. Ethan stepped forward. She doesn't owe you her freedom. Lucas laughed coldly. Mind your own business, painter. This is between me and my ex-fiancée. It stopped being just your business when you tried to blackmail her. I'm offering her a solution. Take care of your daughter and stay out of matters you don't understand. Clara took a deep breath, wheeled herself closer to the table, pulled out a document, and signed it in front of everyone. This is my official rejection of your partnership. I'd rather lose contracts than sell my integrity. Lucas smiled cruelly. Without investor support, without a network, with everyone throwing stones at you, how far do you think you'll get? She looked him dead in the eye. I still have myself, and that's more than you ever had. His smile faltered. He gathered his things, dropping the engagement ring box and luxury car keys on the table as he left. You'll regret this. After he was gone, the investors exchanged uncomfortable glances. Ms. Wynn, we need to discuss the implications. The implications are simple, Clara said calmly. I choose my dignity over your investment. If that's a problem, there's the door. 3 investors left. 2 stayed, looking uncertain. The room cleared until only Ethan and Clara remained. Why didn't you tell me, he asked quietly, about being a CEO? Because every time I tell people, they treat me differently. Either they want something from me, or they pity me more because I fell so far. She looked away. With you, I was just Clara, not CEO Clara, not wheelchair Clara, just me. You should have trusted me. I know, I'm sorry. Her voice broke. But I'm not sorry for what I just did. I'm not selling who I am for his approval. Ethan knelt in front of her wheelchair, picked up the engagement ring box from the table, placed it in her hand. You don't need to forget him. You just need to know you don't belong to him anymore. She opened her hand. The ring fell to the floor with a small clink. Light reflected off it as it rolled away, disappearing under the table. I don't want it, she whispered. Any of it. The ring, the cars, the life he promised. I just want to be free. Then you are. She looked at him, tears streaming. What if he destroys my company? What if the video ruins everything? What if... Then we start over. Together. He squeezed her hands. You think I fell for you because of your company? I fell for you because you made my daughter laugh. Because you see the world in colors I forgot existed. Because you're brave even when you're terrified. I'm so scared, Ethan. I know, but you don't have to be scared alone anymore. That evening, Lucas held his press conference. He showed the video, told his version of the story, painting Clara as desperate, Ethan as opportunistic. The internet erupted. Comments poured in, half sympathetic, half vicious. Of course she's with a delivery guy. She can't get anyone better now. Gold Digger found a new target. This is sad on both sides. At home, Ethan held Sophie while she cried. Why are people being mean about Miss Clara? Because they don't know her. They only know the story someone else told. But we know the real story. Yes, we do. Sophie looked up at him, fierce despite her tears. Then we should tell them the real story. How? I don't know. But Miss Clara is part of our family now, and families protect each other. The next morning, Sophie made a video on Ethan's phone. Simple, unedited. Just an 8-year-old telling the truth. My name is Sophie. Miss Clara is my friend. She's nice and she makes my dad happy. I don't care if she's in a wheelchair. I don't care if she's a CEO. I care that she reads me stories and teaches me to draw and never lies to me. And if you think she's not good enough for my dad, you're wrong. She's too good for all of you. Ethan posted it, no explanation, just Sophie's words. Within hours, it went viral, millions of views. The comments shifted. This kid gets it. Out of the mouths of babes. Maybe we should listen to the people who actually know her. Other videos emerged. Employees at Win & Company defending Clara. Contractors she'd worked with. People in wheelchairs thanking her for representation. The narrative shifted, and Lucas's attempt to destroy her backfired spectacularly. But for Clara, none of that mattered as much as the text she received from Sophie. We love you, Miss Clara. Don't be one. We're a team. She cried reading it, but this time they were tears of relief. Clara opens her hand, lets the ring fall to the floor. Light reflects off it, closing that chapter. Clara lost investors. Her shares were frozen. The board called emergency meetings, but she didn't give up. Ethan took time off from deliveries. Together they opened a small workshop called Second Bloom, furniture designed for people with disabilities. Sophie painted the sign that hung in front. This is our new home. The early days were hard. They built by hand, sold piece by piece, took custom orders from people who'd never had furniture that fit their needs. Clara practiced walking with a support frame. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to dream to be. Ethan never pushed her, just worked beside her quietly. One evening, Clara sat slumped over design sketches, exhausted. Maybe Lucas was right. Maybe I can't do this. Ethan set down a cup of tea beside her. You don't have to go far. We just have to go together. She looked up at him, eyes wet. How are you so patient with me? Because you're worth the patience. After 6 months, a magazine featured them. Former CEO rebuilds from failure. They were invited to a conference on accessible design. Clara sat in the audience, lights on her, hands trembling, but voice steady. Thank you to the people who didn't leave when I couldn't stand yet. Ethan and Sophie watched from the front row, smiling. Clara had truly come back to life, but it wasn't the company's success that mattered most to Clara. It was the small moments. Sophie doing homework at the workshop table while Clara worked on designs. Ethan singing off-key while sanding wood. The three of them eating takeout on the floor because they hadn't bought proper chairs yet. Is this what family feels like? Clara asked one night after Sophie had fallen asleep on the couch. I think so, Ethan said. Messy and imperfect and exactly right. She wheeled closer to him. I need to tell you something, okay? Before the accident, I had my whole life planned. Perfect timeline, perfect milestones, perfect everything. She paused. Losing my legs felt like losing all of that. But meeting you, meeting Sophie, I realized those plans were never really mine. They were what I thought I should want. And now I want this. Workshop dust, terrible takeout, a daughter who leaves art supplies everywhere. You, she smiled, this messy, unplanned, beautiful life. Ethan kissed her softly. I want that too. Sophie, who they thought was asleep, cracked one eye open and grinned. The workshop grew slowly but steadily. They hired 2 employees, both people with disabilities who struggled to find work elsewhere. Maria, who was deaf, handled communications and social media. James, who had cerebral palsy, managed the books with brilliant precision. We're not a charity, Clara always said. We're a business that sees talent others overlook. One day, a large order came in. A hospital wanted accessible furniture for their entire pediatric wing. It was more than they could handle alone. They'd need to expand, hire more people, take on debt. Clara sat with the proposal, terrified. What if we fail? What if I'm not ready for this? Ethan sat beside her. Then we fail together, and we try again. You make it sound so simple. It is simple. Not easy, but simple. He squeezed her hand. I believe in you. Sophie believes in you. When are you going to believe in yourself? She stared at the proposal for a long time, then signed it. Okay, let's do this. They expanded. The workshop became a small factory. Second Bloom grew into something bigger than any of them had imagined. But they kept the original sign Sophie had painted, hung it in the new space as a reminder of where they'd started. One evening, Clara showed Sophie and Ethan a small silver bracelet. Engraved on it, Hope begins small. This is for you, she said, giving it to Sophie, because you reminded me that small things can grow into big things. Sophie hugged her tight. Does this mean you're staying forever? Clara looked at Ethan over Sophie's head. He nodded. Yeah, sweetheart, I'm staying forever. That night, after Sophie was in bed, Clara practiced walking with her frame across the workshop floor. Ethan watched, not helping unless she asked. She made it 15 feet, then 20, then collapsed, laughing and crying into his arms. I did it. You did it. I'm not fixed. I'll probably never be what I was before. Good, because what you are now is pretty amazing. She kissed him, tasting salt from happy tears. Outside, through the window, the Second Bloom sign glowed under the streetlight. Sophie's painted letters, "This is our new home." And for the first time since the accident, Clara truly believed it. Home wasn't a place. It was these people, this moment, this choice to keep choosing each other every single day. Clara gives Sophie a silver bracelet engraved, Hope Begins Small. 1 year later, Second Bloom won Humanitarian Business of the Year. The morning of the ceremony, sunlight streamed through the workshop. Ethan wiped down tables. Sophie played with wood scraps. Clara wrote thank you notes to their staff. Sophie ran over with a new drawing. Miss Clara, look, it's us. Don't see it, Dad, me and you. In the picture, 3 people stood under a small tree. At the bottom, family. Clara's eyes filled with tears. If I could walk someday, I'd want to walk beside you two. Ethan replied, and if you can't, I'll just slow down. Sophie tugged Clara's sleeve. But you're already with us, walking or not. Clara pulled her into a hug, laughing and crying at once. That evening at the ceremony, Clara stood at the podium. Actually stood with her support frame, legs shaking but holding her weight. The audience gasped, then erupted in applause. She smiled, tears streaming. A year ago, I thought my life was over. I thought losing my mobility meant losing everything. She looked at Ethan and Sophie in the front row. But I was wrong. I didn't lose everything. I found what actually mattered. More applause, but she wasn't done. This award isn't for me. It's for every person who's been told they can't. For every father working 2 jobs to make his kids smile. For every child who loves without conditions. For everyone who chooses to stay when leaving would be easier. She lifted the trophy. This is for people who stand again in whatever way they can. The audience rose to their feet. Afterward, Ethan met her backstage. You stood. I did. Wanted to save it as a surprise. She smiled through tears. But I'm exhausted. Carry me? He lifted her easily. She wrapped her arms around his neck. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. Sophie appeared holding the trophy. Can we go home now? This thing is heavy. They laughed. Home. The word felt right now. Not the penthouse she'd lost, not the life she'd planned, but the workshop where they'd built something real together. The next week they hung a new sign outside Second Bloom, for those who stand again. Clara stood between Ethan and Sophie for the photo, using her frame, not perfect, not healed, but standing. Sophie placed a cupcake, similar to the one from their first date, on the desk in the office. Look, Dad, she's smiling now. Ethan smiled too. Yeah, she is. Clara looked at the cupcake, then at these two people who'd changed her life. You know what I realized? She said softly. What? Ethan asked. Happiness isn't finding someone perfect. It's finding someone who doesn't leave. She squeezed both their hands. Thank you for not leaving. We're not going anywhere, Sophie said seriously. We're a team. Forever. Forever, Ethan echoed. Clara nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Outside, the Second Bloom sign glowed. Sophie's original painted letters still visible underneath the professional version. This is our new home. And it was, not because of the business, not because of success or awards, but because they'd chosen each other. Every day, through doubt and fear and struggle. That's what made it home. That's what made them family. Sophie places the original cupcake on the desk, smiles. She's smiling now, Daddy. Family isn't where you're born. It's where you choose and keep choosing every single day. If you believe stories about compassion, resilience, and single fathers deserve to be told, please leave a comment and subscribe to Hidden Heart Stories. We tell stories that shouldn't be forgotten.